Hi, everyone. Welcome to Humane Voices. Today, we are here to talk about a situation that, of course, has been all over the news recently, just the incredibly heartbreaking situation in the Ukraine. Obviously, when there's a war, people are horribly impacted. And as folks are fleeing Ukraine and trying to find refuge in other countries, a lot of them are bringing their animals with them. Animals are impacted in countries wherever people are impacted. And so we're going to be talking about that today. And my co-host today is Mary Bonsall. Welcome, Mary. Can you tell us about today's guest?
Hi, thanks, Carrie. Yeah, today's guest is Kelly Donithan. She is the Director of Animal Disaster Response for the Humane Society International. And as we're recording this, actually, Kelly is probably working on packing up her bags because she is headed to Poland on Saturday to assist in our relief efforts over there. Really incredible work. Thanks for being here today, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, Kelly, maybe we can kick off. I mean, can you tell us about what you'll be doing? It just seems like just incredible. You know, this is unfolding by the minute, obviously. And, do you know what you'll be doing once you get into the country?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as the crisis started, and I think like everyone, I mean, we're just seeing what's on the news and the incredibly fast exodus of people leaving Ukraine, seeking safety in the neighboring countries. Mm-hmm. And the fact that like every other piece of footage or photo, they have pets. I mean, the Ukrainian people have not, even really considered in many cases an option to leave their pets behind. And as the refugee crisis is expanding, I mean, we're already over 2.5 million people have left the country. Some of those Western cities like Lviv are becoming major hubs for internally displaced persons that will be also probably seeking to leave in the near future. We really want to do something to help refugees that are leaving and especially those with their pets, as that's something that we, are able to address in our role. So as we've been watching and talking with the different players on the ground in our country offices, we have country directors in Poland and Romania. So we've been able to get a lot of good, quick information. We quickly decided something that would probably be very useful is to create some pet relief packs. People are leaving with, clothes on their back, their pets, their children, maybe a few essentials that they can carry. But especially even if they had more with them and then they have to walk the last few days and many miles to the border, they may have to leave things. And so we wanted to be able to provide them with some of those essential items that will enable them to hopefully keep their pets with them for the still very long journey ahead once they reach the border and get out of Ukraine. So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be meeting up with our country director in Krakow, Poland, which is a few hours from one of the main border points. We are collaborating with Mars Incorporated, who is very generously donating some space at a warehouse that we can stage and begin assembly of these packs. So working on procuring those items. Again, we're trying to keep it very lightweight. We don't want to add to anybody's burden of what they're having to carry, but hopefully some of these items will become, very useful as they're not spending very much time in some of these initial areas and then they venture on further into the EU and beyond. So we want to do whatever we can to keep families together.
That's excellent, Kelly. Really amazing work. Can you talk to us a little bit about your partner in Ukraine, You Animals, and what they're doing currently?
Sure. Yeah. You Animals is a Ukrainian-based animal protection organization. They don't run any shelters themselves, but they campaign actively in this space for animal welfare. And since the war started, they have just been very well positioned to connect quickly with shelters and veterinary clinics and rescues and zoos and wildlife shelters. I mean, basically anywhere throughout Ukraine that is keeping and caring for animals, including even individuals who are now amassing, hundreds of animals that they're trying to care for in some of these heavily affected cities. So we figured rather than trying to get our funds to a lot of these different smaller groups, they were better positioned to really get that aid to those local groups who are so severely affected at the moment. They don't need to be bogged down with trying to get an international transfer. If we can enable empower you animals to continue their work and continue to get that aid out there. That's, we thought, was the most effective way. And they've been doing incredible work throughout the country.
Kelly, thanks. I wanted to ask you, connected to that issue. I know, we've had some incredible, like donors are obviously, everyone's reading the news. People want to help. We've had some folks reaching out to ask, can they send pet supplies from the US to the Ukraine? And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about, like why we've chosen to sort of take this particular approach, and why some of that sort of, like, as much as it's incredibly good intentioned, like some of the sort of like sending of in-kind stuff doesn't always work.
Yeah, it's always really challenging, and I can totally empathize with that desire to want to send things that you think are going to be really useful and are of a need. And the further you get away from the situation, the harder and more complicated and less cost effective truly it is to send those items, especially when we're talking about a region that does have a lot of the needs there within Europe. Thankfully, they're not cut off from having a lot of that humanitarian like aid and pet care items and things like that. And so sending things from the US is truly a bit more cumbersome. It's going to take a lot longer, a lot more funds, carbon footprint, all these things. And sometimes you don't always know exactly where they're going to end up, or by the time they get there, is it going to be at a place that it's still really needed? And we've just seen time and again, all this really good intentioned gifting becomes quite a burden actually on the recipients themselves, and costs a whole nother challenge that they have to manage.
More logistics, right? Yeah,
exactly. So trying to get funds to the people that really know exactly what's needed and when, and enable them and empower them to be able to address immediate needs quickly is really the most efficient way. That said, we are also there are needs to get pet food and stuff into Ukraine. But again, not coming from the US, there's plenty of resources there within Europe and Eastern Europe. So we are also working through partnerships to try to get where we can pet food and supplies on humanitarian convoys that are already going in.
That's
These groups are even saying that they're hearing that this is a need that the people in Ukraine are asking for. And we have one really amazing partnership that we're really excited about is with the Romanian Red Cross. And the first ton of pet food that is, I think, probably being loaded as we speak, will be heading over there on Friday into Ukraine. So we're really grateful that they let us know that this was something that they're hearing is needed where they're going, and we're happy to fill that need.
Thanks, Kelly. I mean, like, if we can stand a moment of levity in this incredibly difficult topic, I will say that what this was reminding me of when we were talking about this earlier was when I was in the field during Hurricane Katrina, when we were on site at the disaster relief place in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Randomly one day, this truck full of donated supplies showed up at the proving grounds, and it was loaded to the brim with boxes of women's thong underwear. And I was just like, this is a classic example of why sometimes donated supplies are not actually what's needed in that moment. So just so everybody knows, like that's the reason that we're sort of focusing on funding, because the groups, sending money is best right now because the groups that are there actually know what is needed and can actually spend that money accordingly.
Exactly. No, that's so true.
Kelly, can you talk, is this something that we've ever done before, actively sending tons of pet food into a war-torn area? I mean, seems historical.
I think in so many ways, the situation is something that a lot of groups haven't truly faced on the scale, on the speed that this situation is evolving or devolving really at times. And so, we're quite fortunate in the fact that we happen to have country offices in Romania and Poland and also in Germany and Italy that enabled us to be quite quick on the requests for some of this and closer, to be able to react. So that was, we're not always in that position. And I don't think this, it's been challenging at times in other sort of conflict situations, not always necessarily having the kind of resources available like we are here with Europe being, bordering this crisis and having been able to make these partnerships and get in. So I would say, this is definitely something on this level and scale that it's new for us. first time, at least on, this scope. And, we're just doing our best to keep up with what's happening and be flexible and answer any calls that we get.
Yeah. It sounds like it's really great that we have some partners on the ground. I was looking, I know we're working in Germany with a group called Berliner Tiertafel, and like not speaking German, I had to look up what Tiertafel meant because I was like, what is a Tiertafel? And it sounds like this is a pretty amazing group that is already doing, it's kind of similar to the work that we do with Pets for Life, where they help people who have kind of come upon financial hardship and need help caring for their pets in a sort of interim period. And now they're stepping up to do this work around the refugee crisis, which is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we're just yesterday we were able to expand this to the Hamburger Tiertafel. So Hamburg is now also seeing a large influx of refugees entering the city, and immediately our country director jumped on it and reached out, and so we're launching the same sort of partnership and project there, so that refugees as pets are able to bring their animals there for veterinary care. And get whatever supplies that they need. So yeah, it's really important. I think we have to remember, these border points are really critical to get that essential aid to, but this is it's long in the journey and it's long in time. So we have to be prepared to help support, these people and their pets for as long as we can. And hopefully, this crisis doesn't, extend any farther than any of us want to see. But I think we're all realistic in that even if it ended tomorrow, there's still going to be massive
tremendous
need for quite a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelly, do you have an anticipation on how long you yourself will be over there helping out, boots on the ground?
Yeah. I mean, I anticipate at least a couple of weeks. We want to get the packs operational, and that our initial goal is 100,000 packs to get started along the Polish border. We, are also looking at providing aid at other border points in Slovakia and Hungary and Moldova and Romania. So it's a long border and a lot of need. And again, I think, we've been a bit astonished to see how many pets are coming across every day. It's not like a random pet here and there, right? They're they're everywhere. And, and we just want to make sure that people, are greeted with that sort of support, so that, we have heard of cases where people get to that sort of zone of safety and then feel it's kind of as far as they can take their pet. It's been, so challenging. They're, maybe unable to find pet-friendly transport onto the next point or pet-friendly housing. And so that's something, one of the partners that we just provided more funding to in Poland is actively trying to help navigate this and help people with pets get that transport and housing all the way across Poland as needed, so that they can keep their pets with them.
Kelly, I don't know if you can speak to this at all. I mean, I think what you're talking about now, I mean, I think one of the first pieces of news that I saw coming out of the Ukraine was around, there's a really well-known chef, Jose Andres, who runs a group called World Central Kitchen. And he was sort of at the border really quickly and was really remarking in his Twitter feed about how many people were coming across with animals. But I think one of the questions I've started to see a few things in the news around like animals, not pet animals, animals in zoos and how some of them are impacted. Are we doing anything there? Or do you have any information about kind of like how people are handling those situations?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be any human or animal untouched by this crisis in Ukraine. And so there are hundreds of thousands of animals that are in zoos, wildlife sanctuaries, rescue centers, private ownership. There is quite active exotic pet ownership in Ukraine. So people having, exotics. I've been seeing a lot of posts about, people having their wild cats and not being able to bring them across because they're either not considered pets or there's been some, I think, exceptions at times. And we, one of the other great things about You Animals and why we, are really dedicated to supporting them is that they are reaching out and supporting these facilities as well and making sure that they're getting additional aid. Yeah. And there have been a few evacuations. I know I'm sure you saw like some of the big cats and other animals from Kiev Zoo were able to get to to Poland. But as you can imagine, just the logistics
Yeah.
of traveling with some of these animals is like pretty extreme in the best of times. And so trying to do this where they can't even really truly get access outside of the city. You're dealing with large, dangerous, or potentially, fragile animals, and trying to get them across during that time is definitely a whole different challenge. And so we're just trying to look for any options that we can help support those facilities in country for now and help them continue to care for the animals. But we've heard really horrific stories. I know there were 2 keepers at one of the zoo 2 days ago who were shot and killed going to care for the animals. And there's been animals killed as well, or, at least indirectly through shelling and just stress. So it's unimaginable, the suffering that's happening for both people and animals in these situations.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for making the time to be here with us today. I know you've got a lot on your plate, and I hope you travel safely. I hope you stay safe over there, along with all the rest of the folks who are helping with this. And let's just all hope that this situation ends soon, and that people get some sense. One particular person, and then let's hope this nightmare is over soon, and that we can do what we can to reduce the suffering involved.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. This is Humane Voices. Thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.